Lean and Six Sigma have actually come from two totally opposite sides of the thank you, of the planet, really. You've got Lean, which came primarily from Toyota, and then you have Six Sigma, which came from initially from Motorola and then GE, General Electric. They are very different, but they're also very similar. And actually, when combining Lean and Six Sigma to obviously Lean Six Sigma, that synergy is really, really powerful and allows anybody to work in any organisation. You can see from the cross-section of the organisations that you all come from, that actually Lean Six Sigma is completely applicable. And this is actually one of the reasons I really like delivering this open training, is just for the cross-section of people we have coming from so many different backgrounds and different processes, and yet applying the same methodology to make those processes better. Okay, project scope, having just mentioned that, keep it very concise, keep it very focused. You're going to have to think about, what are your boundaries, so where does your project start, where does your project stop, and keep to them. And effectively you're going to put a fence around what is your project, and only the things that are inside that fence you're going to look at, and anything that's on the outside of that fence, then that's actually somebody else's problem for now. Or maybe it's your problem in the future. But you need to define where that fence is in relation to your process and the issue you've been faced with. And if you have anything that's sat on the fence, then it will fall in, as I said earlier. So you've got to try and think about it. So a couple of tools.
In addition to traditional process mapping, and there's lots of value to that, you get the arrows, you get the shape, you see the complexity, you can see where the decisions are, you can see potential rework loops, all that sort of stuff. There are some additional forms of process mapping that can be useful depending upon what you and your organization are looking for. They all come with strengths, they all come with some weaknesses, and you just have to kind of measure where you are. If you haven't done much of this before, then I think sticking to the old tried and true circles, squares, rectangles, and diamonds will work perfectly fine. But if you've done some of this, and maybe your organization has, then these other techniques may be more useful for you.
So ideal world, we'd have everything there, we could assess it, measure it, whatever we need to do to it, and we could get the complete picture of what was actually happening. But in practice we have to take a sample, analyse the sample, and draw conclusions based on that. So it turns out that the conclusions we get, or sorry, that the results we get from the sample are perfectly true and exact for the sample, but they're just an estimate for the population or process that sample was taken from. So two things are important if that estimate is going to be a useful estimate. A, was the sample taken in a way that genuinely represents the process? And B, how big was the sample size?
You do need to have a storyboard. Storyboards are a summation of the phases of the project, DMAIC. And they are primarily visual. We want to see graphs, pictures, and so forth. But they really document visually how this project, from where it started and defined to where you've gotten eventually at the end in control. And generally consists of 1 or 2 slides per phase. There's nothing mandatory or prescriptive about it. We have some various templates and such that we can talk to you about. But generally you want to have a nice succinct story that communicates really to 3 audiences.